Molcharmies are here, and how much do they change with the top decks? Hello guys, and welcome back to another cold episode. On today's episode, we're talking about Yubel with the new cards being introduced, most notably the Molcharmies, and of course, Varudras, which is a pretty solid card, all things considered. It's basically just an Omni Negate and additional things, but it just requires 2+10 level 10 monsters, which is mostly Yubel. So let's quickly go through the card by card, and I do want to start by saying this. I am not the definitive voice on Yubel. I very rarely play this deck. I do have a general understanding, but if you want a specifically, like if you want a better deck list, you could probably find one on someone who's more experienced with Yubel. And the second thing is that this is more so just to give you the baseline for what to kind of expect with Yubel, not necessarily like the in-depth analysis and all of that stuff. So if this is a bad deck list, I'm not surprised. If this is, you know, an analysis that is not going to tell you all of the like little details about how to play around this or how to play around that, that's the point. This is more so just like getting your feet wet and kind of more so almost to play against Yubel, and just kind of how it works with the Fuwas, or the Molcharmies in particular. So let's quickly go through the card by card and the explanation. Starting off with the Yubel monsters, it's pretty standard. We're playing 3 Samsara, 2 Grave Squirmer, 3 apiece of Spirit of Yubel. We're also running 1 Yubel as well as 1 Terror Incarnate. And then we are also running the 3 Nightmare Throne and the 2 Nightmare Pain. And that's it for the Yubels. We're also playing, of course, the standard Fiend Link stuff at this point, the 2 Beckoning Beast and 2 Opening, as well as the 1 Chaos Summoning Beast. We're also playing the 1 Sharvara, 2 Piri Ray map, just to give us that additional the additional plays, basically, or consistency. That's the word I was looking for. And that's pretty much it for engine. Oh, sorry. And the 1/1 to summon out the Samsara. And that's pretty much it for the engine. The rest is non-engine. And you might be wondering why we're playing 44. Pretty simple. We have a bunch of cards we do not want to see. This one, this one, this one, and this one. So we're running a whole bunch of cards that we don't want to see in our opening hand. So by diluting our deck, especially with all of the insane one-card starters that we have, right? We have a ton of them, especially due to the way that our extra deck is built. It makes more sense to have more, basically just see less of them. And it also allows us to run more non-engine, which we are running quite a bit of. We're running 2 Droll because of cards like Maxi, which we're running 3 of, and Fuwalos, which we're running 3 of. I'm not running Perulia. Perulia is okay. It's not exceptional, but the problem is with Perulia, it's either insanely good or it's absolutely terrible, and there's kind of no in between. So for the most part, I feel like it's not worth it to run Perulia on top of the 3 Fuwa and the 3 Maxi. There are some decks that can do that, for example, Tenpai, which we'll explore later, but yeah, for the most part, there are my thoughts on that. We're also running the 3 Ash Blossom, 2 Nibiru. I think Nibiru is just really good in this current format, mostly due to the fact that no one is really playing around it, and you have more easy of access of seeing it with the Fuwa and the Maxi, so it's just nice to be like, here's a guy. And it's been pretty good for me. And then, of course, we are playing the 2 Called By and the 1 Crossout, and of course, 3 Infib. And that's pretty much it. For the extra deck, we are playing the 2 Phantom of Yubel, and then the 1 Chaos Angel as well, to potentially go into. We're also running the 1 Varudras, which is pretty nice. Notably, what you can do is you can go Chaos Angel, like banish a thing, and then go into the Varudras for the Omni Negate. And then on top of that, at the end of the damage step, you can destroy an additional card after it battles, which is pretty nice. So you could just like crash into a thing, or like attack a thing, and then pop an additional card. And it's like really good for cleaning up fields, which is something of note. And then the rest is Link monsters, the 1 Almirage, the 1 Soul of Rage, the 1 Yama, the 1 Anguish. Anguish probably is cuttable, but it did come up occasionally where it was fairly nice. But yeah, all in all, it's probably the most cuttable card in here, and you could replace it with something else. We're also running the Cross Sheep, as well as the Dark Charmer, and Muckracker as our other Link 2s, as well as, of course, SP Little Knight. I forgot to mention that one. And then Apo and the Axis Code Talker, as well as Summon Sork. Now, if you don't know why we're playing Summon Sork, it is very simple. Summon Sork allows you to use the Dark Beckoning Beast, or just the Beckoning Beasts in general, in order to go into the Yubel stuff. So for example, if you just have a single Dark Beckoning Beast, you can go normal summon the Beckoning Beast, search out the opening. Opening can search out Chaos Summoning, normal summon. As long as you have another Fiend in hand, any Fiend, which most of the time ends up being this guy or, you know, one of these. But even like these guys, it also works with, which is something of note. You then link off into Yama. Yama then, actually, no, you don't technically need another Fiend. I lied to you. Because Yama can then search out the Sharvara. It's just not great to use Sharvara in this way. But alas, you can do that. Then you just pitch a card in order to bring back the Beckoning Beast or the Chaos Summoning Beast. And then you go into the Summoning Sork. Summoning Sork special summon the Sharvara to the opponent's side of the field. And to your field, you summon the Samsara D Lotus. Then you link off the Samsara and the Summon Sork into Muckracker. Muckracker is then able to pitch a card to grab Summon Sork. Or not Summon Sork, to grab Samsara D Lotus. And then you can use the D Lotus to go through the rest of that combo. It's not exceptional, but there are a lot of hands. There are a few hands where that comes up, and it's very nice. Mostly due to the fact that getting into Phantom of Yubel is extremely advantageous, so being able to do that is very nice. And that's pretty much it. Let's hop into the replays and show you how this deck performed. Alright, so here we are going first, and let's see what we can do. We basically have a unplayable hand. Unless this opening result, it does. Yeah, of course it does. So we're going to normal summon out the Dark Beckoning Beast. We're going to activate its effect in order to grab up the Chaos Summoning Sword, or Chaos Summoning Beast, and then go into Yama. Yama effect is going to search out the Sharvara, and then we're going to activate the effect of the Sharvara, and we are going to pitch, or sorry, not the Sharvara, the opening, in order to grab up the Spirit of Yubel. Spirit of Yubel is then going to be popped off of Sharvara, and then I'm going to go into the Unchanged Soul of Rage, which will then not set because Escape is in our hand. Here we're going to grab the Grave Squirmer as well as special summon the Terror Incarnate. Here we're going to go for the Phantom of Yubel and then link off into the Muckracker. And this is a bit goofy for me, but I don't really know what I'm doing here. As I said, I am not exactly the most aware. Realistically, there was a way for me to get actually Varudras onto the field, but I do goof it, and so there's that. It's fine though. All things considered, I think this is an okay board, but yeah, definitely could have been better. My opponent reveals that they're on Flunder, and they drew Map and the Unexplored Winds, which is just like really bad for me. But there's not really a whole lot that I can do. They do go for the Stree, revealing and banishing Robina, and then yep, they're going to banish my Yama, which kind of sucks. They're going to go for the Robina. I'm going to Ash that. I think this is just a mistake. Realistically, I should use the Phantom of Yubel. I don't know why I don't. And yeah, it comes back to bite me because Triple Tactics Thrust, which I could have Ashed. So yeah, just straight up a misplay. Again, just bad. Anyway, out comes this guy. They're going to go for the Ryza here. They're going to then Chain Block as well. And I'm actually going to activate my effect of the Phantom Yubel here to negate this tree so that they don't have a card in hand. But it doesn't matter. They had a called by, so happens. I kind of figured they had a called by, but yeah, there's that. Anyway, Phantom of Yubel gets negated, and Stree goes back to hand, which is pretty bad for me, but it's not like the worst. They're going to change the order at the top of the deck. Now, notably, they do give me back Ash, which is kind of interesting, as opposed to, like, Fua or something along those lines. That's just, like, a dead card. But, yeah, okay. Anyway, not that big of a deal. We do draw the Ash Blossom here. I'm immediately going to link into Access Code Talker and activate the effect, to the which my opponent will not they decided to not activate their trap card here, which is very detrimental for them. Now, had they chained it, I would have just walked over this guy and then had to interact with the whatever they grab off of the map and all of that jazz, which is not great, but at the very least I still do have access to another one of my Phantom, so it wouldn't have been the worst. But now we can just pop the map and then we're pretty good. They still, for some reason, activate this card, which is funny, because I literally didn't have anything else that I was going to do there, but they activated it anyway because it's funny. Now, granted, if they had used this for my turn, I would have been cooked. Or, sorry, not for my turn. For their turn, I would have been cooked. But alas, they don't. So they grab up the Robina, then they're going to normal summon the Robina and banish the map, and then they are going to activate the Robina, to which I will promptly negate with the Phantom of Yubel. So, coolio. Banish pop. special summon the Yubel, and then my opponent is going to pass it back, realizing that they have nothing. And we draw the Samsara D Lotus this time. Or I'm just going to normal summon it, activate the effect, go for the Spirit of Yubel. Spirit of Yubel set the Phantom of Nightmare, Nightmare Pain, pop, summon, yada yada. You've seen the combo. This is mostly because, hey, Varudras was actually summoned, so yeah, there's that. I don't know. I could have done more, but like I just decided to do this because I knew it was lethal. So good game. All right, so here we are going second. Just kidding, we're going first. Our opponent won the coin flip, and they decided to make us go first. I wonder what this could be. Anyway, we're going to start off here with the Lotus, to which my opponent will go Max C, to which I will promptly ash that. And then they're going to go Perulia, and I'm like, well, that sucks. Can't do anything about that. Coolio. Now, Perulia, let's actually talk about how Perulia interacts with this deck. There are a few instances where you do special summon from the hand, as well as, of course, normal summoning. Obviously, my opponent is bad and didn't immediately fire the Perulia. Shame on them. But there are 2 instances in particular where you summon, well, technically 3. There are 3 instances where you summon from hand. Sharvara, the Grave Squirmer, and if you have Nightmare Throne, you can pop and then special summon. So, there are those 3 instances you special summon specifically from hand, which means Perulia can potentially get 4 draws, the normal, and then those 3 specials. However, you don't need, technically, well, first of all, you don't oftentimes have the ability to go for the Nightmare Throne, it's just whether or not you draw that. So that one is oftentimes off of the radar. It's not really usable for Perulia, or it's not something that will come up with Perulia. The other one is Sharvara, which technically speaking is nice to have, but is not necessary oftentimes. So that one is one that you can also forego, because using it on the opponent's turn is also fairly useful to potentially dodge effects, or just put an extra body onto the field, which can be nice. And the other 2 are obviously the normal matters, but like that's kind of it. Also, technically speaking, the summoning beasts, the Dark Beckoning Beasts as well, they also count as normal summons, but I'm just going to count that as normal summons. Obviously, normal summons are normal summons. Can't really do much to avoid that. There's a few things, right? If your opponent shotguns a Perulia, you could just normal summon Lotus instead of going for Dark Beckoning Beast or something along those lines. So, there's that. There's a few things there. And then the last one is Chaos, Grave Squirmer, which for the most part, you just want to summon. It's extremely useful most of the time. So, yeah, there we go. We're going to go for the... who is this? Samsara for the Spirit of Yubel, to which we will grab the Nightmare Pain. Nightmare Pain will go for the Grave Squirmer, and we're going to special summon off of that the Yubel, and then go for the Grave Squirmer in order to pop the Yubel, as well as special summon it, and we're going to go for the Yubel. Here's where they draw there, and then we go for the Terror Incarnate, and we also go for the Phantom of Yubel at this point, and then we also go for Yama. Yama is then going to search up Sharvara, and here we can go for the Grave Squirmer to reborn a guy, and then reborn the Samsara. I'm also going to special summon here because I'm like, I'll give them a second draw, that's fine, just to put up a more formidable end board, because ending on whatever I did there was like really bad. So there you go. That's pretty much what we got. Anyway, my opponent is immediately going to start by nuking my face-up attack position monsters instead of my back row for some reason, which I guess makes sense, but like... interesting. Anyway, we're going to banish and also add back the Phantom of Yubel. And we're going to bring back the Unchained Soul of Rage. And that's pretty much it. We just passed the turn there. Anyway, we're going to pop the Soul of Rage as well to grab up the Samsara D Lotus. And then we're also going to put back the Phantom of Yubel once again. So now I have both of those back into the extra. We're going to go for the Spirit of Yubel again to grab up the Nightmare Pain. And since we already used the Nightmare Pain, we're just going to immediately go into the Phantom of Yubel and just pass the turn on that. It's a little bit stronger. But we do have 3 hand traps as well as this, which is now promptly going to be destroyed. So, not looking good. My opponent just passes the turn there again. So you might be wondering what is happening, what is going on, why are they not doing anything? This is Tenpai, if you hadn't put it together. Tenpai is one of the few decks that also plays Perulia. Most of the time they just don't, though. So, yeah, they just kind of bricked. That's pretty much it. Also, we have a whole bunch of hand traps, which is pretty nice. We're just going to immediately activate the Nightmare Pain and just pass, because I don't need to do anything else. I have 5 interactions technically in hand, so there's that. It's basically on them. Anyway, we're going to go for the Nightmare Pain, to which my opponent will go for the Veiler, and I will summon my Grave Squirmer, and then just pop the Phantom of Yubel. My opponent then goes for Super Polymerization, and I immediately see why they have bricked. They are playing the Dragoon package, which I will say I don't think is as good as of anymore. Reason being, the reason the Dragoon package was good was because it was something you could do on the first turn. However, with Tenpai losing its consistency, and more specifically losing its status as the #1 deck to play, I think realistically you're not expecting to play Tenpai mirror matches nearly as often, so it's probably just not worth it to play Dragoon. But alas, my opponent decided not to have that be the case. Anyway, ignore what I'm doing. It doesn't really matter. We're literally just making another Phantom of Yubel and passing. There were some other hand traps thrown around, but yeah, there you go. My opponent just decides to put this guy in attack position for reasons unknown. I guess they just didn't read the card, which, granted, shouldn't be surprising for a Tenpai player, but still. Anyway, we're going to go for the Nightmare... the Nightmare Pain, to the which my opponent will Ash that, to the which I will Phantom that, and called by? No, of course not. So we get to pop it here, and we're going to grab up the Samsara Lotus. We're going to special summon here off of the Phantom of Yubel. Then we're going to normal summon, activate the effect, and go for the Phantom of the, or Spirit of Yubel, which my opponent will promptly concede. So, good game. Alright, here we are once again going first, because that is what we like to do. So let's start off here with going for the Fury Ray map, and then we are going to normal summon here with the Beckoning Beast, grab up the opening here. We're going to activate the opening to grab a Chaos Summoning Beast, normal summon it, and then go into Yama. I don't know why I go Yama here. I'm really just very confused as to why I do this. Also, not summoning the Yubel here is a crime, and I should be punished heavily for that, because we could have then specialed the Sharvara and triggered the Yubel. I don't know why I don't do this, but I just don't. So, there's that. Anyway, we do link here for the Summoning Sword. I guess it's more so because I needed a Fiend in hand anyway. Now, granted, I did think that Yubel couldn't, like, had to be summoned via some sort of effect. I don't know why I thought that. I could have just given my opponent Yubel, but that also kind of would have sucked, so I don't know. Anyway, we do now have the ability to go for the Muckracker summon sort line. So we're going to pitch the Fuwalos, that was just kind of dead in hand, and now go for this line. So we can go for the Spirit of Yubel, grab up the Phantom, or the Nightmare Pain, go for the Squirmer, and then we're going to special summon out the Yubel, then special summon the Squirmer, and then pop the Yubel, and Yubel is going to trigger to special summon this guy, and then we're going to shuffle those two back for another Phantom, which is not good in the slightest, but I am locked out of most of my extra deck at this point, so kinda a bit of a struggle here. Anyway, let's see what my opponent has. They're going to add rank up Magic Launch, and then reveal that they're on, wait for it, Gabunga! It's Goblin, aka 3-axis. Now, I go for the Imperm here, which you might be like, oh, why would you go for Imperm there as opposed to Phantom of Yubel? Well, if you don't know, Goblin, Biker, Gabunga specifically says, if a material is detached from a monster on the field, you can target a face-up monster your opponent controls and attach it to this card as material, which I very much so don't want to have happen. So, yeah, just Imperm. It's just the best option here. Also, I'm almost certain my opponent has a called by because of the way that they are playing. So, first of all, I don't really care about the Xyz Armor Fortress getting its search. I'm like, that's fine. Do you have an out to the Nightmare Pain? If you do not, I will not interact with you. But my opponent goes for the banish of the Phantom of Yubel, and I'm like, oh, okay. That's fine. If you're not going to banish Nightmare Pain, that's a-okay. I'm just going to set my escape, and we'll be okay. They're going to go to combat and deal 16 to themselves, and then set 2 and pass. Now, I'm almost 1000% certain one of those is a called by. Let's find out together, shall we? I draw Nightmare Pain, which is fantastic. They're immediately going to banish my Phantom of Yubel. Again, I just let this happen because, hey, that's going to come back later, and then I will guaranteed have it, and I'm, again, almost 1000% certain my opponent has a called by. They're just playing like in a way that's like, yeah, of course it's called by. So yeah, of course it's called by. Anyway, we go for the Nightmare Pain here as well to grab up the Grave Squirmer, and we're going to go for the Yama here, to the which my opponent will reveal the second called by. Telegraphed much. So yeah, they're going to banish our Spirit of Yubel, which is fine. I was going to bring back Yama anyway. And I do a goof here. I don't know why I go into Dark. My brain just turned off. I was like, Dark into access code. Like, that's just what you do. I don't know why I don't just go Anguish here. I don't know. My brain just turned off. It's fine. Anyway, we go for the Squirmer here, and I just make Apollosa, because I'm like, alright, can you kill me through Apo? That's pretty much all that I'm looking for. If you can kill me through Apo and the Phantom of Yubel, then you got it. Also, now I don't have to contend with Called By, which is pretty nice. They're just going to equip a card here, then go for the Gabonga. They're going to special summon. I'm going to negate with the Apo, to which my opponent will Ghost Ogre. I'm like, yeah, that's fine. Do you have an out? They don't. And they concede. Pretty much. Good game. Alright, we're back with the deck, and honestly, this deck is still extremely strong. Now, am I the one to play it? No, not necessarily, but honestly, if your opponent doesn't have an out to Nightmare Pain, do you really need to think? Let's quickly go over the Mulcharmies. First of all, Fuwa Loss is just so bad for this deck. Mostly because not only does it count deck summons, it also counts extra deck summons, which means if you, for example, activate your effect of Spirit of Yubel to summon a Yubel from the deck and your opponent has the Mulcharmy effect activated, that's a draw. On top of that, any Link Monster or Phantom of Yubel or anything like that that you also want to summon is another draw. So that's why we are playing so many outs to it, right? With the Ashes, the Drolls, the Called Bys, the Crossouts, etc. Make sense? Makes sense. On top of that, as I mentioned previously, Perulia also has a fairly okay time into Yubel. It's not the worst, but there are ways to play around it to basically minimize the amount of draws that your opponent gets while still basically making the same end board. And then, of course, Maxi is Maxi, and we all hate Maxi. As for the rest of this, I genuinely think that this deck is still very good. Most notably, it has room to play Fuwa Loss pretty effectively, where not every deck really wants to play this card, even though it is so good. A lot of them just, like, don't have space to play a bunch of Mulcharmies and hand traps to pair with that. Yubel is one of the few that genuinely can do this, and do it well, which is pretty nice. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Honestly, I still think this deck is very good. It's extremely strong and is one of the best decks to climb with right now, mostly due to the fact that, like, yes, it does lose to these decks, but its end board is extremely difficult to deal with, and a lot of, like, rogue to like tier 3-ish decks have a hard time dealing with Nightmare Pain and the Yubels, so there's that. The last thing that I wanted to mention is that realistically this deck doesn't change a whole lot until the Fiendsmith stuff comes out, so not much has changed in terms of what it can do, but overall, there you go. That's it. Thank you guys so much for watching. I hope that you guys did enjoy it. If you did, I'd like us very much. Appreciate it, and remember to always stay frosty. Bye-bye. Shout out to the Frost Guard, my members. Thank you guys so much for the support, and I hope you enjoy the content.